What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russian.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Ghost, thanks for reading the message. I told you to have your camera on. Let's bring you right away. We're joined by Ghost today, at least for most of the episode, some of the episode, to talk about some of the geopolitical stuff. But how are you guys doing?
Good, man. Just waiting. Looking forward to Team USA spanking Canada tomorrow.
They play again.
Well, I'm also looking forward to the hockey team. I was talking about just the Trump administration. But...
Yes, they are in the finals of exhibition hockey. Although it is pretty cool. I will say I was not going to be into this tournament, and then did watch US Canada, and it was like the best hockey game in years, I would say, and it's exhibition. So
it's not quite the same without Russia, though. It's not quite.
No, that is super gay, and I have been ranting about that in the Bright household. I was trying to confirm, and Russia would be number 3 in terms of the number of NHL players per country, but we got these Nordic retards skating around out there.
Yeah.
Imagine giving Finland and Sweden separate teams.
Or any teams at all. I saw Zach in the chat. If he's still in the chat, I have a video for him. I just want to play this real quick. Oh, dang. Where's the no audio? How do I turn the audio on? We were talking about a Subaru the other day on Baseless Conspiracies, so I saw this and I had to poke fun at him. And you drive a Subaru too, Bernie Bright, so you know what the lesbian experience of the Subaru is like.
I do. Actually, the other day, Mrs. Bright's car would not start, and it was because I had a faulty alternator that drained a battery. Whole thing. AAA came out, so I was talking to that guy, and he was, I replaced the battery and everything, but we were talking about the Subaru, and I was like, yeah, people say they're lesbian cars. He's like, yeah, they do say that. And then just like moved on from it. Like he didn't like qualify the take. He wasn't like, but they're actually pretty cool. He was like, yeah, people do say that.
Well, they say it because it's true. Like somebody did a study. I don't know which lesbian did the study, but there's a study done, and a majority of people, like more lesbians own Subaru than any other car. Therefore, it's a lesbian car. It's the lesbian car.
But that's actually great marketing because, number one, lesbians usually don't make a lot of money. And number two, they're very frugal because of that. So they look for maximum value for their dollar, maximum utility because they all have dogs. And that's how Subaru became a lesbian car. It's actually true. They became a lesbian car because in the 90s, they promoted themselves as a dog-friendly car brand. And lesbians per capita have the most dogs of anybody.
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
I feel like Subaru owes us money for all this promotion.
I am coming out as a lesbian tonight, just so I can stay in the Subaru family.
Boy, have we been waiting. Ghost, you don't drive a Subaru, do you?
Actually, we just got rid of a Subaru because it was a company car for my wife. So it was given to her by the company.
She's a lesbian.
Yeah, exactly. But she's no longer a lesbian because they got rid of that one and they gave her a different car. So.
Saved another one.
Well, this is the hard-hitting discussions you guys come to watch this show for. I know. Yeah. So we're going to keep talking about lesbians and car ownership after this commercial break. So let's get a quick word from Goldco. If I can find the ad read. Here we go. Are you ready for the golden age? With recent headlines buzzing about Fort Knox, it's time to shine a light on gold. We've seen questions like, is there really a gold in Fort Knox, and is the government secretly moving it? But the real question is, are we going back to the gold standard? In a world where economic stability is uncertain, gold remains a timeless asset. Fort Knox, the fortress of America's gold reserves, is under scrutiny, and this may be the moment gold proves its worth once again. Don't miss out on helping to secure your future. Gold isn't just an investment. It can help safeguard against inflation, currency devaluation, and economic turmoil. Whether it's for your retirement, as a family heirloom, or just to have that peace of mind, this is the perfect time to buy gold. Go to badlandsgold.com and learn how you can add gold to your portfolio. That's badlandsgold.com.
I was fact-checked. Whoops, I probably shouldn't bring that up during Gold Coast segment.
It's all good. Okay, what?
But not true, BB. No lot of lesbians. Them bitches be making bank in man jobs. My sister's a dyke and proud to be, and she makes mad cheese as a paramedic.
Does she drive a Subaru?
Excellent syntax, but that's probably a good point. They probably do make bank because they're more like men.
I like mad
other
cheese.
women.
I'm going to use that from now on, guys.
Yeah. Makes
If you
mad
want to
cheese.
ensure you
Make
have
mad
mad cheese about 5 years from now, go to badlandsgold.com.
Chat
And
him
who
up.
was it that gave that rant? I want to watch for
Nikki.
Subaru Intel.
It was. I lost it. Nikki. Naturally, Nikki.
Naturally, Nikki. Let us know, Nikki. We do have one more sponsor, but the gold story is kind of crazy. I think we're going to get an audit of Fort Knox since we're
For sure.
on that topic. We talked about it Saturday and Monday a little bit, but if you guys want to say anything on it, you can feel free.
Well, I think Elon is going to do like retarded stuff in there, and it's going to be a really great mimetic photo op where he'll stand in front of the tungsten bars and go, "It's like crazy. There's like no gold in here," and we'll do that. But I think it's making me think a lot of G Money's take on the infamous Q drop, "Gold shall destroy the Fed." I think that this is a situation where you can have both things be true. A lot of gold bugs are excited about it because ostensibly, if it's determined that gold is more scarce because the audit fails, then yeah, maybe the gold asset price goes up and silver along with it. Private ownership would become more scarce and therefore more precious. But I also think that that's missing the point a little bit. To me, a lot of people are rushing to say, hey, if Fort Knox fails the audit, first of all, it demonstrates that the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury have been lying to the American people for decades. That's the first thing. The second thing, though, becomes, well, what do we do with the U.S. dollar or the future financial system? And people keep saying, well, that means we go back to a gold standard. I would say that Fort Knox failing an audit would be proof that the gold standard did not work. It's all about, because the gold standard, or really any standard that is not Bitcoin, is 100% reliant on the trust of the keepers of the ledger. So we probably have high trust in the Trump administration, as we probably should. They're proving that, right? So if they backed the dollar with gold, I would probably trust the Trump administration. But 20 years from now, who's to say where to trust any of this again, right? Like, yeah, we could have regular audits, but what if we had a different monetary system wherein the entire ledger, meaning the ownership of the ledger, is available?
I get all that. I'm just saying I don't see how the gold being gone means the gold standard didn't work, because it would have happened. It would have went missing when the gold standard wasn't in place. You know what I mean?
Because the whole idea of a gold standard is that was what could keep gold pegged to the dollar and keep the dollar strong. But if we don't know how much gold there is, then the gold standard was fake. Even when my point is that even when we had a gold standard, it was fake. It was paper gold that was being applied to US dollars. So it wasn't actually a correct ratio, even at the time we were being told that the dollar was pegged to gold. So you have to trust whoever's telling you this stuff.
Yeah, no, I see your point. Well, I guess we'll see what happens when they actually go and audit Fort Knox.
It's pretty funny, the idea of him, like, if I'm understanding the PSYOP right, he's gonna like live stream like on his phone, like walking through Fort Knox, and like
they did that in the 70s though. We went over this on Monday. Like they had a bunch of media guys go and show up. So some whistleblower close to the Rockefellers comes out and says, hey, the gold is all missing. Rockefeller essentially stole it. That's, I think, the insinuation. She died 3 days later, and all of a sudden there's this huge uproar to get people down to Fort Knox. And so a couple congressmen and like 100 reporters go, and there's a whole bunch of safes, and they just look in 2 of them. They like handle the gold a little bit, take pictures, pretend to weigh it, and it's just all weird. They left the rest of the vaults shut. And so, I mean, how can you say those were full of gold too? Why would they only let them do 2 of them if it's the first time they've been there in decades? Just none of it made any sense.
We also don't even know if that was real gold. Like that could have been tungsten. That's very common. Tungsten bars.
Yeah. So this would be like Elon Musk going there and live streaming would be the same story essentially.
That's true. Yep.
Unless he goes there and brings, gold testing, and they test it on live stream and show that it's fake, or so, that could be a huge.
Bring G Money. Send G Money in there and let G Money weigh and measure the gold bars. Yeah.
They'll have to drill into the gold though to see if it's real or fake or not. That could be a process if the gold is actually all there, because the most interesting parts of the story to me isn't even what's happening with Fort Knox. It's the fact that whoever it is, I'm assuming the Fed, is bringing all the gold from Europe. Like, they don't want the gold to be physically in Europe, which, I mean, they would still technically be owners, right? What kind of situation would arise that your ownership of the gold now needs to be here in the United States and not in Europe, unless something's about to happen with Europe where you feel like you guys are almost going to be enemies or counterparts for some reason, and you can't trust that they're going to safely manage the gold that's there.
Right.
Hence the Ukraine discussions.
At the same time, it's also worth mentioning the Federal Reserve, the 5 Federal Reserve banks, the 5 banks that created the Federal Reserve are London banks. And so it would make perfect sense that the gold would be in London and not here, because the Federal Reserve is a London banking organization, not a American banking organization.
Yeah, and all that said, that's why I said earlier, I do think this can be a tale of both things. Like, that there often ends up becoming gold versus Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff. There is basically, as you said, John, like a silent run on gold happening right now. That's why the price is breaking out. I don't expect that to stop. I don't expect that to reverse. I expect it to keep going. It was more just to say, the fact that banks have been hiding gold and taking possession, misreporting it on their balance sheets, contrast this with El Salvador as a Bitcoin nation. It's not just that El Salvador has Bitcoin on its balance sheet. It's that their wallet, the public address, is public by definition, which means that every single person in the world can look right now and see that El Salvador has the money it claims it does. You don't have to, as Bitcoiners say, gold is also a trust me bro. The dollar, like everything else that's not on a public ledger, is a trust me bro.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's whispers of gold standard, semi-gold backed dollar. There's whispers of future with Bitcoin. I think it's
could be both.
Impossible to know. But we do have one more sponsor. I want to get these guys in real quick. We got Van Man. Nice to see Van Man back in the mix. At Van Man, we know that tallow is the best moisturizer there is. The oil in our skin shares the same fatty acids with tallow, making it nearly impossible to beat. When you feel how soft and smooth your skin is after just one use, you will never go back. Tallow is more than just a moisturizer, though. It can replace lotion, night creams, wrinkle creams, Neosporin, diaper balm, and so much more. Powerful enough for your skin, yet safe enough to spread on your toast. Our tallow is the best seller day after day. The van never stops, and they're on a mission to take down big toothpaste as well. Van Man is bringing the perfect dental hygiene bundle to Badlands. Eggshells and bone are 2 of the best forms of calcium. Van Man's tooth powder combined with pulling oils and peppermint aloe mouth rinse is truly the ultimate fluoride-free dental hygiene bundle. By purchasing these as a bundle, it saves you 25% off the individual prices. Van Man is passionate about bringing you natural and effective products, so hop in and go to vanman.shop/Badlands and use promo code Badlands10 for 10% off your order. That's vanman.shop/Badlands, promo code Badlands10. All right, let's how about we talk Middle East stuff first, Ghost? If you want to fill us in on some of the latest happenings, and then we'll transition into what I think is one of the funniest stories we got going on, and that's the story in Ukraine. We'll get to that.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. So I think the most relevant thing to discuss is what happened this evening. So you may have heard that there was a conference down in Miami that Trump went and spoke at, and this would be the Future Investment Initiative Institute, which is a organization that was founded by the Saudi Public Investment Fund back in October of 2017, and they branded it.
Isn't that Q drop start?
Yes, that is exactly when the Q drops start, and they branded it as the Davos in the desert, and which pissed off Klaus Schwab, and Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum said you can't use that branding, and they basically said F you, we're using that branding, and the whole point is that it's the antithesis to the World Economic Forum. Donald Trump didn't really say anything groundbreaking. I was kind of hoping we were going to get some juicy new deployment, but he really, I think, just went to kind of lend his celebrity and his clout to kind of bring more attention to it. but you could tell as the camera panned through the audience that there were like all the people that you would probably think go to the World Economic Forum, not like the World Economic Forum people, but the investors, the people with the money who go there to give them money. And the idea, I think, is to pull those people away from the World Economic Forum and bring them to this new group. And I have the program. So here's the program, and this is going to be interesting to this audience. There are two panels. So kind of like Garth, they have these different panels that they're going to have for the next 3 days.
Copycats.
Yeah, exactly.
We are suing.
Yeah. So one of them is a Bitcoin panel, a Bitcoin town hall. Another one is, well, this one was kind of interesting. Do states own the ocean? So they're going to have like this debate about like mining the ocean and like, can a country claim ownership over the ocean? But this one's like the signal right here. So the end of multilateralism and what it means for the world. And so multilateralism is like NAFTA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, like these trade authorities that in the past, they forced countries to do trade agreements through this organization. Now, like as we've seen happen, these bilateral trade agreements, that's the future. That's the way it should be. And basically what they're saying, they're going to probably get up during this panel and just gloat about that and talk about how multilateralism is dead, globalism is dead, multipolarity is the future, bilateral trade agreements are the future. So yeah, I mean,
who's on that panel?
Well, the co-chairs are Dr. Richard Haas, Dr. Eric Schmidt, and Patrick Zong. Yeah, but Trump kept calling out Yasser. Yasser is the governor of the Public Investment Fund in Saudi. He was in the audience. He was sitting next to Elon, and Elon was sitting next to Princess Rima. And Trump made kind of a funny comment about Princess Rima sitting next to Musk. I think yeah. it may have been a dig at Ashley St. Clair. I don't know, but
oh really?
Yeah,
that's funny. You should. Okay, you got to find that clip.
And all of this is, as you mentioned, with the Public Investment Fund. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. I was kind of spurging out on it because, again, it's none of it can be completely confirmed, but plenty of the seizures have been confirmed. That Public Investment Fund has been topped up over 50% by seized assets in the wake of the 2017 Saudi purge. So it's. Obviously, Trump mentioned it when he was sitting between Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent when he was talking about the U.S. Sovereign Wealth Fund. He mentioned the Saudi Wealth Fund. So, that's a throwaway, right? You're allowed to think, he's just saying that because it's a big one. But the more convergence we see between Trump and people in Trump's economic orbit, especially in his administration, and the Saudis, you can draw increasing analogs between that and whatever's in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Public Investment Fund. Ours is probably going to look a lot like theirs.
Yeah, I think so. I'm still waiting on, this is the common misconception I see all the time is those executive orders seizing assets. And I don't think whatever mechanism Trump will use, because it makes sense that they would use illicit proceeds to fund stuff like that. I just don't think we've seen the mechanism yet, or it's in his wartime powers or something, because it's not in the executive orders we've seen. But imagine him doing that, though. Like him being able to seize those assets would, I don't think we truly comprehend how much assets that could potentially be based, depending on how he defines the corruption.
Right.
You got that clip?
I can't find the clip. It just has the quote, but which isn't as good.
Here, I got the clip.
Okay, you got the clip. There you go.
Many other senior government leaders, I also want to recognize the kingdom's ambassador to the United States, Her Royal Highness Princess Rima. Ooh, very popular. Very popular. Wow. That's very nice. Sitting next to Elon. Wow, you couldn't do better than that, huh? As well as my own special envoy.
Maybe not, but I don't know. It was just kind of fun. It was like this awkward kind of like pause.
Yeah, we haven't really seen much movement on that front either. The Ashley St. Clair thing. Not that we need to get into it, but huge splash,
so gay.
And then some very, Very
I
gay.
mean, my God, that was like one of those painful things to go viral. Just, man.
It's not even like I don't care about the story. I think I said this on my daily show the other day. I care about all the conservatives who completely showed their lack of actual conservative values by rushing to congratulate her for having her second kid out of wedlock and not being married. Like the whole thing has nothing to do with conservatism. And these people all rush to congratulate because it was with Elon Musk. It's crazy. It's Con Inc. at its finest.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I think it even touches on the darker aspects of Con Inc. You know, we're usually shitting on them and making fun of them and everything, but make no mistake, some of us definitely believe there's a lot more of a clandestine feeling to what we consider Con Inc. You know, it's not just there's conservative influencers that we find annoying. I mean, I certainly consider some of these people with massive platforms to be highly suspect. And as we've always said, one of your big markers there is the fact that none of them were ever banned or censored in any way, despite building their entire platform on the phantom that they were censored.
Yeah,
so
we don't need
makes
to
you
go,
wonder when they start kind of mimicking Mossad agents.
I got to show you this. Chris posted this in the private chat. I want to play it. It's a short clip. Scott Bessent with Brett Baier. This must be tonight.
This is the first time this door is opening?
First time it's been open since March 2020, since COVID.
Wow.
They're talking about the Treasury. The first time the door to the Treasury has been opened.
Why'd you want to do this?
Brett, I thought it was important for everybody to come back to the office. And I think reopening the front door of the Treasury building, what better symbol than we are open for business again and everybody's expected back in the office. Every day when I'm in DC, I'm coming to the office and I expect everybody else to.
This is
the first time the Treasury doors have been open since March of 2020. How is that possible?
Wow. What a flex too. Yeah, it doesn't seem very possible.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Wow.
Absolutely insane.
Joe Lang spurging out right now.
That my mind is a little blown by that. I mean, I'm not surprised necessarily. I just didn't realize it was that bad.
Well,
not even needing to be in the building.
Yeah, well, I mean, the simple way of looking at it, I feel like, is that, I mean, the age-old truth community joke about the Federal Reserve is that it's not federal and it has no reserves. I know we're talking about the Treasury, but it's essentially the same deal where, hey, when you're able to just print out of nothing, when all your bonds are backed by nothing, why would you need to keep up the appearance of real operations?
Right. Anyway, let's get back to Saudi Arabia stuff. Ghost, you got more?
Yeah, share my screen.
There we go.
So we have we talked about this, I think, on your show, and I'm sure other shows have discussed this, but a lot of different negotiations happening in Riyadh right now. And it's funny because you can see the narrative deployments that Trump is using and how he's trying to sow chaos. And he's trying to sow chaos and sow confusion, I think, among sow chaos and sow confusion among his enemies, because he said last week on Thursday or Friday that this Riyadh meeting between Russia and the United States wasn't going to happen for a while. He's like, this is going to be sometime in the distant future, right? And then 2 days later, he said on Thursday or Friday of last week. Yeah. So he said that there was going to be a distant meeting in the future. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, Marco Rubio gets on a plane and flies to the Middle East. And then Lavrov gets on a plane and flies to the Middle East. And all of a sudden, you have every big diplomat from both sides, every diplomat from the Saudis in a room together, not only negotiating Ukraine, but negotiating Gaza and negotiating Iran. Like all the big conflicts happening in the world right now, all being resolved at once.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, the Iran one. So what's interesting to me about this is how far back and all the little side elements that are involved with the Iran story, because you can go back to Obama's deal, sending them pallets of cash, and then Trump gets in there, backs out of the deal. Media freaked out over it. He allegedly had Iran like on their last leg, right? Like we were going to defeat the terrorists in Iran, and then he loses the election. Joe Biden gets back in there. They killed Soleimani, and then ever since then, Trump and all of his admin have had death threats against him. Iran hacked their emails, the campaign. There's just so many elements to the story. Trump, before leaving office, we used to talk about that kind of shadow war that he initiated using special ops and War to be taking place without Biden even being aware it was happening. He had documents at Mar-a-Lago that had to do with Iran. Like, there's just a bunch to this Iran story. And now they're going to meet at the negotiating table? Like, weren't we even told that there was legitimate threats against Trump's life from Iran while he was at Butler, and that's why he had a lack of Secret Service protection? There's more here. I don't even believe Iran necessarily did that, by the way.
Agreed.
But this is a big deal. Saudi Arabia in the middle of it, but who's at this table? It's very interesting to me. You guys got anything to add?
Yeah. Well, so as you and I discussed the other day, the first deal was really more about money laundering, it seems like. So I think that was just about like massive theft from the American people, facilitated by Obama, facilitated by the deep state. Iran, the central bank of Iran, being used as the main vehicle to do the laundering. And it seems like there was a story, I don't have the article handy, but there's definitely like stories about a lot of those bankers being arrested by the Iranian government over the past several years.
Yeah.
So it seems like there has been justice to some degree pursued. We don't know to what extent. We don't know like what's going on over there, but there's narratives at least deployed about bankers being arrested related, it seems like, to that money laundering scheme. This new deal to me feels more like it's about a nuclear power plant in Saudi Arabia being built, more so than about nuclear weapons. Because we know that MBS has been demanding a nuclear power plant for a few years. He went on Brett Baer on Fox News a year ago and said that. He said, I want a nuclear power plant. Why can't we have one? So it seems like, I mean, Iran has nuclear power plants. We built them for them back in the 70s. So it seems like that's probably how this is all going to be negotiated. I think MBS is going to say, I'll broker this deal, but I want nuclear power out of this.
Awesome. Anybody, you're unmuted now.
Was it? Sorry, I didn't see your.
No, I muted you because you were like
typing.
Just loud as hell.
Some people like it. That just reminds me, it's interesting if you think that they're going to cut nuclear out of it. I mean, I find the nuclear narratives to be really interesting. I talked to Quast about that a little bit Sunday night, but definitely going to do a deeper dive on that. I think Trump is deploying some really interesting, kind of hard to read narratives with nuclear, where he is simultaneously talking about nuclear disarmament. And, you know, that's coming in the form of using the word denuclearization. And we're seeing that, to your point, with the Saudis, with Iran tends to be the country that they're most often talking about. It made me think of this bit of scaremongering in late January from Reuters. Images show China building huge fusion research facility. So they're talking about China getting into fusion reaction, which is like largely theoretical, not theoretical, but it hasn't been produced at scale yet, essentially. And the idea is that if fusion can be unleashed rather than fission, we're looking at absolutely incredible energy abundance. You know, the closest thing to like Tesla 0-point energy, pretty much. Super clean, almost lossless, if not completely lossless, infinitely recyclable. The reason I bring that up is the mainstream media are demonizing the push into nuclear energy. Trump is talking about denuclearization. We're seeing all this idea of nuclear disarmament between the US, China, Russia, and Iran. And yet, if you look at the actual moves being made by the administration, the Trump administration is all in on nuclear energy. The Department of Energy head for Trump is Chris Wright, who sits on the board of several startup nuclear energy companies. He's all about nuclear energy. So I just find it interesting, like, how are we going to navigate this? And to me, I think that they're going to just paper over a narrative and say, we're going to denuclearize from a weaponry perspective, whatever your thoughts are on that. But from an energy perspective, I actually think that we're going further into nuclear than ever before.
Yeah, Trump's definitely mentioned that multiple times about the push for nuclear energy. It's interesting. Saudi's never had one, but wants one. The denuclearization with all the countries. I mean, that's been, we've talked about this before. Trump's ultimate plan going back to like 1987.
Yeah.
But what's new in that discussion is him not just like discussing it broadly, like he wants to denuclearize. And like I think the first came up on an interview Trump did in like September. Can't remember who was with. Oh shoot, I can picture him. The guy with the mustache. He was on the roast of Tom Brady. What's that guy's name? Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. Chris knows who I'm talking about. But it wasn't that long ago that he
I know you're talking about. What I can't think is Michael. I can't think of his name either, but I know you're talking about.
I don't think it's Michael, but regardless, that part, like the denuclearization and the fact that he was in talks with Russia and they were going to bring China to the table and all of them were going to denuclearize, that was news, like as of very recently. And then it's taken to the next step now with not just that, but we're going to have all these countries cut our military spending across the board. Like everybody's going to lower their military spending budget. And so it's not just denuclearization. It's like, it's de-escalation across the board. Like let's all take a step back from this ridiculous spending and focus on the good things and not fighting each other. You know what I mean? It's been an interesting shift, and it hasn't taken that long to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things to me about this as well, which can get us into as we move into the Ukraine topic, it's similar here where I think as you introduced it, John, you mentioned, it's interesting to see who's at the table. You're both talking about who's at the table. To me, as I was going through the news cycle today, the story that was really hitting me was the mirror, was the inverse of that. Who is not at the table? According to I'm always fascinated by trying to think of how is this story hitting the normie hive mind right now as it's going kind of viral across the layers in the info war. And what was going viral was as we have these peace talks going on in Saudi Arabia regarding Iran, specifically regarding Ukraine, we've got in the last 2 days simultaneous meetings, and they're being very open about these meetings as the intent of these meetings is to deal with the idea that Trump and Putin and the Saudis are talking about peace deals. So I just think even if it's a subconscious bit of narrative seeding right now, the normie hive mind is essentially being told in the open, these guys are trying to make peace, whatever you think of them, and the people at this table right here do not want that to happen. And this used to be sort of conspiracy theory 2022 when we have rumors of the UK and NATO interfering in Ukrainian peace deals. But now we've got Brussels and, von der Leyen, etc., who's who of the globalists sitting at a round table, taking photos and putting out on their social media warnings against these peace deals. And I'll show it after we get into the topic. You guys can respond. But the country that's the most based here as a commentator is Hungary. The Hungarian narrative deployments around this are absolutely hilarious. And it's because they're part of the EU, they're part of NATO, but they're basically the ones in NATO that are calling NATO out.
Yeah, so there's a lot to this story. We got a little ahead of ourselves here. I want to go back
we don't have
to
go fully into it, but
well, we can do it. I just want to give more context about the full story here because this is like one of the funniest things that I think is happening right now. We had the call last week, like you mentioned, Ghost, where Trump calls Putin and is like, "Oh, this is a great call. We talked about so many things. We're going to negotiate the peace deal." And then he calls Zelensky after that, and I think he wrote like a short little blurb about his call with Zelensky. Didn't call this one the perfect phone call. And then over the weekend, we had people at the Munich Security Conference. There's the JD Vance stuff going on. Kellogg it gets asked a question during the Q&A and says, "Yeah, Europe does not need to be part of this table, or doesn't need a seat at the table." Zelensky, of course, or Ukraine can be there, whatever. Like pretty passive about it. But then they actually have the meeting. Rubio, his delegation, Lavrov, his delegation. They come up with the four agreed to things. They're basically reestablishing their relations and agreeing to move forward and continue negotiating. While this is happening, Zelensky is throwing a fit, being like, "I will not sign my name to anything if we don't have a seat at the table. Like they cannot agree to peace and stuff or whatever without us when it's our land, all these things, and Europe's not there." And so the United States and Russia are negotiating peace for the Russia-Ukraine war, which Europe is supposed to help secure. But then it gets even better because when he says that, "I'm not going to sign anything unless we have a seat at the table," Russia and the United States are then like, well, that's fine with us. We're not going to sign anything until you guys hold an election. And they came out and straight up said it. Right here, this is the 3-stage plan right now that the U.S. is reportedly considering: a ceasefire, followed by Ukrainian elections, and then the signing of a peace deal. And so he can whine all he wants about not having a seat at the table, but we're just going to remove him, and we'll give that seat to whoever wins that election. And then that brings us to one more thing. And I was talking to Matt Byram, our head of sales here at Badlands, and he had texted me. He's like, dude, what if Putin runs for that seat and wins the presidency? Because if you think of the territory he took back, and I think I even have a map here that somebody just sent over. Where did I put that? Okay, right here. And you'll probably be able to explain this a lot better than I can. But pretty much all this stuff on the right side, for sure, that's already territory that Russia has right now. Everything in pink, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. So they all voted already to become part of Russia. I don't know what the population breakdown is. Don't know.
Supposedly it was over 90% in both. Keep in mind, there's been 2 referenda, 2014, which kicked off this entire saga, and most recently 2022.
Okay, so imagine an election for all of Ukraine before the peace deal can be signed, and it's Putin versus Zelensky on the ballot. What do you think Ukraine is like legitimately? If not only could this be like funny, because what if Putin wins and then nobody trusts it, and then it forces us to come up with some sort of election system which everybody can trust, just so they can prove that Putin won the election? You know what I mean?
That would be great.
There's layers here. Anyway, comment away, guys.
Yeah, well, one of the great parts about that deployment is that the reporters, I don't know if you saw the video, them asking Trump about it. Why is Putin demanding an election from Zelensky? Which that question is insane when you consider that the entire argument about supporting Ukraine is mud democracy, right? And they're like, why do we have to have an election? And then Trump's response to that was, oh, it wasn't Putin who made that demand. I made that demand. That's my condition. So Trump, like, that would be so perfect if Trump made this condition and then, like Matt said, Putin comes in, runs, and then wins the election. That would be amazing.
Oh, funny.
But what Trump's doing is he's calling Zelensky illegitimate. And then I think he even took it further more recently and called him a dictator, I want to say.
And irrelevant, because they're having these peace negotiations without him. And they're also like, yeah, we're going to come to this peace agreement and we'll just wait till the elections are done to sign it. Like he has nothing to do with any of it. It's Russia and the United States. And we've said this before too. These negotiations have already happened. They already know exactly what they're going to get out of this. But the twist is this election aspect. That's new, as in like days ago, maybe even a day ago. That's a new element. And it brings a very interesting aspect to it, depending on who's in that race, if it happens.
Yeah, I like that. Was a good call by Matt. I've never thought of Putin being on the ballot in a Ukrainian election. You know, we've talked about referenda, but that would be hilarious. And then as you add the eyeballs on the election, other than the U.S. election, it would have the most eyeballs on it possible, the most vested interest. You know, if the whole to this audience, the 2024 election and the 2020 elections were seismic, not just because it determines who the president of the United States is, but because we think that the election system in the United States is fraudulent, right? But contrary to what our community says, I genuinely don't believe that 80% of Americans think that. I think that a lot of Americans believe that, but as we saw even in the truth community, lots of Americans are plenty willing to be like, my guy won, I don't really need to look at this. The Ukraine thing, to your point, is kind of interesting because it's almost people have a vested interest in there being peace, but I think people in various countries, especially in the West, are going to be able to look at that situation more objectively and see if it's bullshit. So if it was a template for that, it would be incredible. But when you bring up the map, I mean, we've been talking about this literally since 2022. The great thing about writing shit down is we've got the receipts. I said month 1 and wasn't the only person that the map that you were seeing circa March 2022 was going to be the map that Putin ends up with. And, you know, the only thing that remains here is how much, if any, face does Ukraine save? For me, I've got my thoughts on Zelensky and that his strings were kind of tied around Trump's hands, but you don't need to think that there's white hat shenanigans or anything like that. This is classic art of the deal. When you even read that statement by Donald Trump, he's putting his asides pretty directly in there, where he says, hey, they've been at the table for 3 years. They won't be a country anymore. He's just telling them, like, this is the way it's going to be. The best you're going to get is this map, if not worse.
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, I agree that I think some of these deals were negotiated long before. I do think that, as I've said before, BB, on your show, that I do think that the narrative being deployed here is not just about telling a story, but it's also about maneuvering around these bad actors that are still out there. And to that point, John, I can, if you share my screen, I'll show you how this Riyadh thing ties into that. First of all,
zoom in.
Yeah. First of all, this is how the entire world, this is how like the media around the world views the G7 now. The summit of losers, for those who are just listening. That's what they call Europe's paper army can't ensure security without the U.S. And I showed you that clip of Lavrov before the show being asked about Macron's statement about deploying the French troops to Ukraine. And he literally just started laughing. Like, he stared at the reporter and started laughing and walked away. He was like, yeah, don't even kid.
I have that clip somewhere. I'll play it quick.
What do you want to say about Macron's recent remarks on sending troops to Ukraine?
That's pretty good.
He's like had to stop and was like, I can't believe you just asked me that question. And then, so this is another article where ex-DOD analyst explains why this Riyadh meeting might be the beginning of the end of NATO. And the TLDR on this is NATO is a defense alliance of 32 countries. It's grown, of course, over the years. It was only a few at the very beginning. And now it's basically all of Europe. And the whole idea is Article 5, is that if one of those countries is attacked by Russia, the entire alliance goes to war with Russia. That's the whole point of it. But now NATO has engaged in this, like these offensive campaigns in Africa and the Middle East. Now they're talking about China and Taiwan. And it really starts to kind of muddy the waters about, hey, we're going to get the entire continent sucked into this war. You have these populist nationalist movements happening in all these different countries, spearheaded by Donald Trump, spearheaded by Nigel Farage, spearheaded by other Meloni in Italy, Orban in Hungary. And so all these countries now are no longer interested in multilateralism, which we just talked about with the conference. They want bilateral agreements. They want to engage in bilateral trade agreements. They want to engage in bilateral security agreements. And what this DoD analyst is saying in this article is, you're never going to be able to you're never going to be able to get these countries to unanimously agree on any significant strategic military operation. So at that point, NATO is effectively already dead, because they're never going to be able to all get in the same room and say, let's do this together, because one of them is going to say, no, I'm out. Like Article 5, I don't want to go to war. And so
the United States is no longer in NATO, right? They pulled out, or is that the WHO?
That's the WHO. I think the United States is still technically right now in NATO, but
I expect him to withdraw from that at some point soon.
For sure. And what this guy is saying is that he thinks it's going to fracture into regional alliances, which makes a lot more sense.
Right.
But all of this is happening because of what's happening in Riyadh. And as I mentioned on your show yesterday, John, it's interesting because the past century, the entire Middle East has been managed politically by Europe, and now you see Europe being managed politically by the Middle East. So it's like an inversion of reality.
I also think it's pretty notable the way Trump is handling this negotiation, by negotiating essentially on whatever Ukraine is, like he's doing it on their behalf with Russia. Whoever, like the representatives from Ukraine don't really matter at all to the negotiation. And why I think that's so interesting is because Trump's been the sovereignty president. He's been the guy that's been like advocating for sovereignty for every country, not just the United States. But this is the one scenario where it's like, there's something else going on here in this Ukraine place where sovereignty isn't my concern anymore. Like, is it because it's the hub for corruption? Because it's a proxy state for NATO and the EU, and how many of these foreign leaders have gotten wealthy off of the USAID funds and our tax dollars for weapons, whatever it is. The whole scam is crumbling, and it's focused and centered in Ukraine. And just Trump's approach on how he handles this, like, proves it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's kind of simple right in front of us, what we just talked about in the last segment. Why would, besides what you said of Ukraine being a proxy, all the stuff we've been talking about for years, the most simple to normies reason that Trump, the sovereignty president, would not apply that approach to Ukraine is that he is applying that approach. How can you call yourself a sovereign nation if you refuse to hold elections, right? It's, like, you don't even have to go down. This is that layered approach of the info war. We go down all those rabbit holes and probably know or think we know more of why Trump's making these decisions. But he doesn't need to convince the normie hive mind about all this money laundering. I think it's helpful that those narratives are in there. Like, even a lot of normies are starting to go, man, this is looking a little weird. Where'd all that money go to Ukraine? You're seeing it reported in mainstream media, but I don't think you need that. I think the election deployment by Trump is masterful because as the Western media and the US media calls him, Putin, Mohammed bin Salman, etc., all these guys tyrants, they are simultaneously defending the right of Zelensky to not hold elections of any kind. So Trump doesn't really need to defend himself. He just says, I'm not dealing with a dictator. That's exactly what Zelensky very literally is at this point. And it will be, this just makes me think, you're talking about NATO, John, and Ghost, you're talking about the collapse, like why it's going to collapse from within. Well, let's look at the Ukrainian election situation. Now, apply that to the EU. I think the big domino to fall on a geopolitical level in the EU this year is going to be when the German government tries to ban the AfD party from the election. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that. And if you're Trump and you won't deal with Ukraine or bring Ukraine to the negotiating table because they're not holding elections, how on earth can you then negotiate with Germany on any level if Germany is not holding real elections? So I think we might see this across Europe. Like, as Chris always says, total inversion. We're going to get European superstates refusing to hold real elections while all of these dictatorial nations that they've talked about in the Axis hold elections.
Yeah, I think they talk about that in here. Yeah, Emmanuel Macron of France. He's been weakened since his decision to call parliamentary elections last summer backfired, left him with a fragile government. They have Germany, may not have a new coalition government for weeks after its election on February 23rd. Is that Monday? Sunday? They have elections on Sunday?
Yeah.
I guess maybe
and
that's
not
Monday
even
over
talking
there.
about the AfD.
Oh. Anyway, on Monday, it's Chancellor Olaf Scholz dismissed the talk of peacekeepers as completely premature. I thought they'd go into another one of these about Germany.
What do they say about Starmer there? And then Canada. I don't know if they mentioned Canada in here, but remember, Justin Trudeau essentially is a lame duck prime minister of Canada right now because of the same thing. So
that one's so weird too. Can you explain that to me? Because like he said, I'm stepping down as president. By doing that, like the legislature and everything imploded and no longer exists, and now he's just in charge of the whole country until somebody else takes over. Like, is there?
Well, supposedly it's on an interim basis where they've got I don't pretend to understand all the nuances of how Canadian Parliament works, but there's essentially an interim process going on right now where there's rule by committee. But to your point, that's really the point. To the Canadian people, Justin Trudeau is their prime minister and seems to still be acting as their prime minister, even though he appears to have lost, even publicly, the consensus protocol needed to govern. So, and that almost the exact same thing happened a few months earlier, as you just read, in France. That's a very similar situation where Macron's quote unquote ruling party no longer has the majority. So they've got a president right now that doesn't actually have the legislative mandate. Forget fake elections and all that. Even according to the public narrative, Trudeau and Macron do not have the parliamentary authority to advance any sort of legislation or enforce any of their policies. So at what point do we get later in 2025-26 do the French, Canadian, and German people start looking around and going, wait a second, you're literally unelected right now, and yet you still seem to be governing us.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Here they talk about how Vance's speech the other day over the weekend were brazen election interference. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, these guys are all crumbling, and that's another point here with not only they're so fragile, but think of what Trump's doing economically. He is basically he's squeezing them dry. He's taking away all this bullshit spending. He's making them pay more for their own security. We don't even know what this peace deal with Russia is going to call from them, and then the tariffs, like everything. They're going to be they're already done. Like economically they are done for, and they don't even realize it yet. And so maybe that's why, like, we don't need any of you people at the table, because none of you are going to be there in a couple of years once your countries actually figure their shit out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We on Balance Daily yesterday, Brian played a pretty funny video of like these 3 German officials who were being interviewed, and this journalist was like, there are people claiming that y'all are arresting people for basically at this point just being mean to other people online. And, I think the journalist expected them to push back, but the guy actually leaned into it and said, oh, yes, absolutely. You can absolutely be arrested for being mean to somebody else. And even better, if you're mean to them online, the penalties are even higher. We will come to your house. We will take your computer. And there are videos of like the cops going to people's houses, seizing their laptops, seizing their cell phones, seizing their computers, arresting them. It's like, and the guy was like so proud of himself for like saying all of this. And it's laugh out loud funny, man. Like, these people are worse than the Nazis, really, at this point.
Yeah, to that point, it's a great point. And I don't mean to be, I think that the awakening spreads worldwide. I think that we're going into a worldwide golden age. However, if I have a partial black pill, sort of hope I'm wrong about it, but I've kind of been using this city on the hill template. We're very focused on the United States. We talk about the foreign scene on this show. But in terms of American people, we're looking at the American golden age, and there's even too much news to track there, right? I think what we're going to see is, as Doge and the golden age and Trump deployments just rocket the US into this accelerated era of prosperity, accountability, transparency, kind of look at that 18-month timeline of Doge and the 250th that we've talked about a lot. I think you're going to see the opposite playing out in these other Western nations. And I actually think that is necessary. Now, I'm a little concerned about it because I made this point when I was talking to General Quast on Sunday night. We were talking about J.D. Vance's speech in Germany. And I said, I agree with pretty much everything he was saying. He was talking about what Ghost just laid out there. But I will say it's difficult to imagine yourself in the shoes of like a MAGA German who's watching J.D. Vance give that speech. And he's right. And that you've probably got the majority in the people. But these bureaucrats are just not there. To Ghost's point, they are mocking you. They're saying, sit down, shut up. We're going to rule you. And we've been talking for years about how we don't want civil war in the United States. We don't want a revolution, right? A kinetic revolution. Man, what is the mechanism through which we're going to avoid that in Germany, France, and beyond? Because it doesn't look good.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, one, their great ancestors fought on the wrong side of the Revolutionary War of 1776.
Yep.
That's not my problem. And none of that is our problem. Like, that's the point.
No, I agree. I agree.
We don't need to babysit or get involved in other nations' wars. They need to figure shit out on their own. Trump can set an example.
Everywhere.
America can be an example. He's hinting at this in Canada. He's hinting at it in Greenland. He's hinting at it in the Gaza Strip. Take care of your own shit. They'll figure it out for themselves. If they need to have some sort of civil war, after all the corruption is exposed here and it clearly leads to Europe and NATO and all those other countries, they'll figure out a way to handle it themselves. I have some faith in that.
I fully agree that we should not be involved. But by the way, my point is, I agree with you. I'm just saying, I do think it's going to get bad. I think because I think it's basically necessary. I mean, to your point, these people are the descendants of, at the very least, if they weren't people who fought against us, they were people who didn't join the American experiment. And the American experiment is freedom. So you kind of get what you pay for, bitches.
Yeah. Well, like to John's point, let's remember why people came from Europe to America in mass. Not only like 1776, but in the 19th century. Like, why did people leave Germany in mass and come to? We talked about in Breaking History today. The U.S. steel industry was basically created by German immigrants from Germany in the 19th century, and it like their ingenuity in figuring out how to take these raw materials and refine them into metals. That was essential for America to become what it became. And they left Germany because they were sick and tired of being treated like crap by these oligarchs. And these oligarchs, their children, are just as bad, if not worse, than they were. So, these same people, by the way, these oligarchs have been going around saying that might makes right for a long time. They're saying it right now, like in the Middle East, with the Middle East war, that might makes right with Ukraine, Russia, meaning if we're the strong man, we can flex in power projection, and that justifies our actions. That may come back to bite them. The boomerang may come around, and they may end up getting spanked by their own people, and that's not our problem. That's okay. These things happen.
Yeah, I just want to address this comment because I see this quite a bit, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or call you out or anything, but I am curious what you mean by this. It's clear you guys are still not fully aware of what type of awakening we are witnessing. I mean, like, I know I don't know everything. I know none of us do. But like, we've been talking about this stuff for 4 years. Like, I feel like out of all the places in the internet, like our little corner has one of the best grips of what's actually going on in the world than anywhere else. So is this like us not trusting the plan enough? Because if I hear that again, I'm going to probably throw my computer out the window.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
The whole plan thing too, even what we're talking about in Europe, I'm saying that I think things are going to get bad over there, and that's going to have a good outcome. I'm like, I've been saying this privately and publicly. I'm a plan guy. Like I've said, my most popular feature I ever wrote was about the Q plan. But I think that the way that word gets used is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Plans require action. And what we're doing is we're talking about various game theories of how that plays out. What are the plans? There are damages to plans. There are military plans. There are political plans. There are clandestine plans. There are chaotic events that happen that no plan can account for. And that's just a fact. Like, people who want to, because the people who talk about full control in that way, talk about it right up until they're wrong about everything that they said was going to happen on Wednesday. And then they go, oh, well, it was the plan that I was wrong. And now the plan says this and the plan says that. So it's all just armchair quarterbacking, informed armchair quarterbacking. So shut the fuck up.
The thing about that too is, since you brought it up, the Q stuff, like, I fully believe Q is legitimate. I've said this a million times. I wrote an article on it.
You've written articles about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm getting a little, like, I wouldn't say annoyed, but it's weird to me. Like, nobody's doubting Q. We have Q on our show. But what you guys got to stop doing is, I've seen this now, just this in the last 5 days. I saw people talking about Kash Patel being confirmed on the 17th. They posted about it. Oh, it's a Q drop, all these things. Big Q proof gets shared around. And then it comes, oh, wait, his confirmation is actually going to be the 18th because they don't have business on President's Day. So then that post gets deleted. And then come Tuesday, there's a new Q proof post about Kash being confirmed. And it was all part of the plan for the 17th. Then when that wasn't happening, the post gets deleted. That's the thing that drives me nuts. You won't even keep that up. And then we're getting called out for. I'm still getting called out for the declassification thing. Did you guys see today? Anna Paulina Luna is leading the delegation, the declassification committee, to Dallas to investigate the JFK assassination 60 years later.
She's gonna go to ground zero and figure it out. She's gonna stand in windows.
Trip.
Yeah. She's gonna model the shooting angles, and that's how we're gonna figure it out, by some friggin' Instagram hoe.
Yeah, but we get just trust the plan. If you guys are offending, if you don't trust that she's part of the plan, then this is a backhanded slap at Trump.
Yeah.
Well,
you will recall that the first time I came to GART, you asked me to come on a panel. I was just there as like a guest, and you asked me to come on a panel. I was wearing a goofy Hawaiian shirt. And I said, this was like the first time I probably spoke about the Middle East on Badlands, but I said, if we're going to go to war with the devil, there is no better ally we could have as Christians than Islam. That is our best ally. Yeah, I said that, and I meant that. And even to this day, today, I'm still getting hate mail in my DMs about how dirty, stupid Arabs cannot be trusted. And we are like, I'm an idiot for suggesting that the Saudis are people that we can trust, even though I've been sitting here saying that MBS is the key to peace in the Middle East for years now. I've been saying that, writing articles about it.
Yeah, you're all over that.
I'm very, very, like, I see people in the chat saying spiritual awakening. Yes, it is a spiritual awakening. And that means recognizing our humanity, recognizing our brotherhood, the stuff that Burning Bright and General Cross were talking about on Sunday night, that we have to put away these ideas that we have to kill people in order to achieve peace. And we have to basically go out and might makes right, like destroy these people and take their land from them. No, that is not the answer. The answer is peace. That's just the answer. It's that simple. So the spiritual awakening is recognizing that and putting away these disputes from the past and focusing on the future.
Well, one more thing I want to make a comment on, going back to our discussion about like the worldwide awakening aspect of this, because that's certainly what this is. There's a ripple effect to what Trump is doing here and what Trump has done here, and the awakening that sparked here. You know, we took part in this as well. I believe that. But when it happens in other places, there's only so much that we can do, and that's what I'm saying. We don't need to get involved. If enough people wake up in a certain area, then that should be enough for them to take things into their own hands. When Trump said he's giving his government back to you, the people, he was talking to us. He's not going to go into every single country and have them. We're lucky that he's doing it here. We really are. And hopefully it can spark the awakening for them to take the initiative themselves.
Yeah. You know, one of my kind of emergent thoughts lately on a lot of the Q stuff as well. And again, I always caveat it by saying more so than most of the people who are not on Q shows. I believe in that op, as you said, John. You believe in it, etc. We all have various disagreements of how to read it. Which my main point here is that was the point of the op. It's not ambiguous. It's ambiguous in terms of what's going to happen. It is not ambiguous at all in that the Q drops over and over again talk about how you need to discern for yourself. They talk about decentralization of intelligence. What did John of news, of information? What is John's intro to this show? What does Donald Trump say in his inaugural address? We're returning power back to you, the people. Do you think he means that he's putting a DVD in and we're supposed to like just give director's commentary? Like we're just watching director's commentary on what's going on. Like I'm more of a control guy than John is, probably more than Ghost is. Could be completely wrong about that. I mean, the areas that I think there might be some control going on. I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that, but even if I believe in total control, the drops specifically tell you, over and over again, not to operate with that mentality. It's in the mission statement. It says you have to be the frame and support. It tells people not to stay still. And yet that's what some people do. Again, it's not like we're just seeing it, a lot of new people around, and it's you want to do that, that's fine. You want to watch the movie and you want to hit drops and comms and all that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that stuff can be positive and good. But when you're throwing shade at people for doubting Q, nobody doubts Q. It's the most popular information program of all time on the internet. You're not the small dog anymore. You don't have to have small dog syndrome. Everybody knows the Q op is legit, right? What we're all trying to work on in our own ways is what can we do? What is our part to play in the plan? And my part to play in the plan is not to just sit down and watch it, right? Like, we want to actually be sovereign Americans and do something with the future of the country rather than watching other people do it for us. So John questions. He dares to question people like Luna. He dares to question Instagram hoes that get thrust into the public spotlight. And Chris does as well. And that's very healthy. And, you know, as you said, the goalpost moving is annoying. Just own what you write, own what you're right about, own what you're wrong about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Understanding it, though, like understanding not just why things are happening, how things are happening. Well, I guess not just how things are happening, but why they're happening. Understanding why a peace agreement works, why these two cultures that have hated each other for X number of years can come together and find common ground, not put aside all their differences, but just find enough common ground to have a trade agreement, right? And to stop killing each other. Once you build the understanding of how that's possible, why that's possible, you can then take that application, you can take that concept, apply it in the future to another situation. And that's how you then build toward a golden era, like a golden age.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn what you're observing, understand it, internalize it, and then be able to apply it in the future. And if you're not doing that, then you're kind of missing the whole point of what observing this process is all about.
Yeah.
I want to make one more point, and it's a John. It's giving you credit, John. I promise it's a short point. I think the best way that you ever encapsulated the devolution operation, our role is also how I think about the Q operation. You've talked about the devolution sandwich. It's a very simple, very effective analogy and mission statement. And I just think all I'm saying about the Q drops and about Q analysis, I think it's all good. I think it's worthwhile. I think people should keep doing it. But I also think people need to keep in mind that there's at some point, the Q operation wanted the activation of the American people, not the passive observation of the American people. And that's what you talk about with devolution. We do our part. There is a Patriot plan. They're doing their part. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to do our part. And some people get mad at that. They get mad when you don't just sit back and trust the plan, bro.
Yeah, we'll move on because I know people are already getting upset with us in the chat after your meltdowns there. I want to talk about this. We talked about this Saturday. And to me, this is very, very devolution-y, what Trump posted here. He who saves his country does not violate any law. And it reminded me of a couple other posts. And again, I know I talked about it Saturday, but I want to talk about it with some other perspectives here and go just a little deeper. The truths from before that I thought it reminded me of were the unprecedented fraud requires unprecedented cure. And on the same day, he talked about massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. So going back to this, it reminded me of this lawsuit that I've referred to hundreds of times. I've talked about it. The devolution series, for devolution, something like that to take place, you needed some sort of pretext to it. There needed to be an act of war, I believe, and Trump used wartime powers to implement it, essentially. And what he's saying in this tweet or true post, he who saves his country does not violate any law, sounds exactly almost like war may exist without a declaration on either side. In instances where war is declared against the United States by the actions of another country, the president does not initiate the war, but is bound to accept the challenge without waiting for any special legislative authority. Importantly, the court made clear that it would not dispute the president on measures necessary to repel foreign aggression. The president alone must determine what degree of force the crisis demands. Essentially saying, like, as president, you can't really break the law if you're doing it to save your country. And what do we think Trump has been saving our country from these last 8 years? Like the deep state, the globalists, like the foreign enemies and domestic, and they're all one thing, the transnational criminal organizations. It's all connected. We're getting little glimpses of that now. The tip of the iceberg with the USAID money, that's only going to get crazier, the exposure to that stuff. Him tweeting something like this, anytime he does it, is extremely notable because it gives that little insight into his mind about what he thinks his authority and powers are and how he can do things and respond to things when he believes he's doing it against enemies who are threatening the well-being of our country. So if you guys want to talk on this, otherwise we can move out of it.
No, when I saw it, I thought of you. I thought of the Devo series. I mean that's what it feels like. It felt like he was saying, he was invoking Abraham Lincoln. He was invoking people of the past who had to take extraordinary action in order to save their country. So,
yeah,
I want to address first of all something in the chat again.
Oh God, don't devolve us further.
No, there's misinformation. This is true. Ghost
That's
is
actually not true. We're the same height.
And then Ghost if you say you're the same height as somebody, you're shorter.
Okay, well then I'm
Can I
talking.
get an amen
I was
in the
just trying to
chat?
be. I was just trying to be nice to you, but I am.
You think you're taller?
You're both very short. We'll just say that.
we
You're
are.
both short.
We're gonna have a standoff where we stand and see who's taller. I'm
guys are gonna have
I'm training
A jerk off,
for the
more
next
like.
fight. No, but on this topic, I agree with what both of you said, obviously. But the on a macro level, I think that a lot of the posture of Trump's new administration, of him, even of JD Vance, and of a lot of the presence that they're putting out, I think encapsulates this. I think that this is the backstop to your point of why could he implement the devolution operation? How did he have the authority to do the things that we think he did over the last decade, et cetera? But I also think that this is partly about just kind of bringing that idea back to the American people of the American president is sort of the prime sovereign, right? The original idea is that he's meant to be vested with the collective power of the American people, with the collective will of the American people. So besides executive orders and precedents of presidential authority and the commander in chief, I do think that if and when there's any gray area to anything that patriots have been doing over the last, however long this operation's been going on, they sort of probably just resort to or fall back to that underlying thing of we are doing what we believe the American people want us to do. I think that there's a little bit of as we're seeing with Doge, in an extreme example, even before Doge, when we talk about the amendments, Chris talks about this a lot, there gets to a point where systems of any kind become corrupted just through the sheer force of administration. The original idea is what needs to be preserved, and I think that's kind of what Trump's returning us to.
Yeah, I'm going to read a quote here from part 4 of my series. This is Lincoln who actually said these words, but in this article, I go through a lot of Lincoln quotes. There's embedded in this article is another article where I pulled all these from, and it's just so good. But take a listen to this, and keep in mind the context here of this post. He who saves his country does not violate the law. Think of that while I'm reading this. Lincoln made no secret of these actions, which he justified on the grounds that existing exigencies demand immediate and adequate measures for the protection of the national constitution and the national union. A year later, in response to charges of dictatorship, Lincoln insisted that it became necessary for me to choose whether, using only the existing means, agencies, and processes which Congress had provided, the law, I should let the government fall at once into ruin, or whether, availing myself the broader powers conferred by the Constitution in cases of insurrection, I would make an effort to save it with all its blessings for the present age and for posterity. That is what Trump is essentially saying, just in a much shorter, abbreviated version with that one tweet. That's a Lincoln-esque post, and it's why I got so excited about it. He's saying the same exact thing, just much shorter to the point. And it almost didn't quite get people thinking of what Lincoln said back in that time. But man, this is so much signal to Trump saying this right here. So much signal.
He TLDR'd it, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Lincoln is burning bright and Trump is John.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Thanks, man. Oh man, I had one other thing I wanted to say on that. Oh, the big news from today. I gotta find this article. Actually, this is a couple days ago. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I find this.
Sure. Well, I mean, while we're talking, BB, we mentioned before that the Brits were bragging, the Londonites were bragging about Syria, the Russians pulling out of Syria. And then like that same exact day, Russia announced that they finalized negotiations for a new naval base in Sudan, which is something I've been tracking for 2 years because they signed the proposal 2 years ago. So
yeah,
that's a huge deal.
Yeah, the Syria stuff's been fascinating. I think it was back in December we were originally talking about this stuff when all the Syria shenanigans went down. At the time, I had said this feels like the first disclosure of sovereign alliance maneuver defense, joint maneuver defense, because if you just look at the story we were told, you have Assad and the Syrian forces folding, withdrawing. You have Russian forces maneuvering, withdrawing, and then you have U.S. Central Command allegedly bombing 75 ISIS strongholds or targets in December. Trump this past weekend says that we hit some more of them. We hit Al-Qaeda targets. And as you point out, the Russians are moving. Now, Sergei Lavrov in December, I was saying before the show, he had responded to a reporter's question about the Russian withdrawal and said, I can understand why to Western eyes it would look like a retreat, but those are planned maneuvers. Again, it's like the Russians move out, the Syrians move out, and then the U.S. Central Command bombs. You can't do that. You just frankly can't do that kind of an operation if you're the U.S. without knowing for certain you're not going to hit somebody that you don't intend to hit. So that requires some coordination that we've been theorizing for years. The Syria situation's interesting. I hadn't got a chance to read too deeply into it, but I believe Putin had his first either direct or virtual meeting with the new leader of Syria and was talking about establishing relations. So
Al-Jilani, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know how to read that entirely, but this whole thing looks very similar to me to the Doha agreement theories spinning out of the Kabul withdrawal. It looks very similar.
Yeah, it's almost like they let the regime put their guy in, and where the regime was expecting to get like a fight, like a civil war, and now it's like, well, shit, what do we do now? Like right. We have control, we have peace, so I guess we get peace because there's nobody to fight, right? And I mean, maybe they'll Jin Psaki back and go deal with it later. But one thing I am noticing is, I spend some time on Arab Twitter, and I have for many years.
It's a weird thing to say,
as one does. And like the big accounts on Arab Twitter who have been like at the center of the whole like Gaza Israel thing, they now suddenly are turning on Putin and basically trying to push the psyop that Putin is the bad guy in Africa, and he's basically killing all these innocent Africans. And I'm just looking, and these same accounts I've suspected for a long time of being like intelligence ops, maybe
Arab Con Inc.
Yeah, like Arab Con Inc. And they definitely are Arab Con Inc. for sure. And my Wonder Bread white ass is definitely going to call them out. I have street cred. I got street cred on Arab Twitter, but I will call them out for being Arab Con Inc.
When you say Arab Twitter, do you mean like a separate app, or it's Twitter, just Arab accounts?
It's Twitter, but like written in Arabic, and like you have to go in and like click translate. Yeah,
I'm surprised you don't speak Arabic.
It's a category on the hub, is what he's talking about.
I already said, John, last year that I'm going to learn by 2030. I'm going to learn Arabic, and then we're going to go to the 2030 like party in
Riyadh.
Dart Riyadh, yeah.
I'm sure it'll be cheap.
There was a guy I met at the last GART who spoke Arabic, and he said just from like living there for like a year, he learned it. And he said it wasn't hard. He told me that could definitely learn it. So
if random GART guy can do it, then we can too.
100%.
Ghosty is the type of guy that will come up in a bar conversation and say, as somebody who frequents Arab Twitter, I'd like to weigh in on this.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to talk about this because this is some good signal, I think, for what's to come in terms of justice. Something it's been a hot topic around these parts for a while. We got our first glimpse, and I'm surprised. I don't think I've seen many people talking about this, and to me, this is a huge story. Senior DOJ prosecutor quit after being told to investigate Biden climate spending. The top criminal prosecutor in the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, Denise Chung, resigned on Tuesday after declining a request from her Trump-appointed superiors to open a grand jury investigation that she viewed as premature, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. Trump's DOJ is asking attorneys to open grand jury investigations into people who were corruptly spending our money in the Biden administration. This is a massive story. This is exactly what we've been wanting. People to finally like get justice for crimes they've been committing. Nobody's talking about this. Like this is just one instance. Can you imagine how we wouldn't even know about this if the person didn't resign and go public, like run to CNN? But I wonder how many grand jury investigations have already been opened because of the Doge stuff and other corrupt spending. We may actually see justice of some form in this Trump administration on the people who were robbing us blind in the past administration.
Yeah, and it's a good point because I just know from my personal life that this came up during Kash Patel's confirmation, where the Congress, the senators were demanding to know what he said during his grand jury testimony related to J6. And he said, I'm not allowed to tell you. Like, if you want the information, go talk to the lawyers, but they told me I wasn't allowed to say anything. And that is absolutely protocol with grand juries, is you're not allowed you're sworn to secrecy and you're not allowed to talk about it. That's just the way grand juries are. And the senators were trying to tell him, no, you are allowed to tell us. Go ahead and tell us. You wouldn't hear about a grand jury investigation because every time the jury is brought in, they are told you're breaking the law if you walk out of here and talk about it.
Yeah, and so this is kind of a sneaky way to get around that because the grand jury hasn't started yet, but she left and went to CNN and was like, they wanted me to open a grand jury investigation. So technically she didn't break the law because it hasn't been started yet. But who knows how many of these are taking place or are going to be taking place. This is huge signal. And I'm so excited about this aspect because not only are we, we've been seeing all these numbers already coming out from the USAID stuff, and that's also just scratching the surface. And it kind of makes you a little upset. It's like, I knew it was bad, but it's even worse than I expected. And we've barely even gotten started. When am I going to get my money back? I want my money. I want to stop paying taxes, all these things. But then beyond that, it's like, I want to see some people go to prison for once. How do we stop this from ever happening again? We got to punish these people. We need our justice, and we may get it.
That's why the way I see a lot, I think we often talk about actuals and narratives, and Doge being sort of both, where they really are taking a hammer to the administrative state, but they're also telling you a very dramatic story about it that is, not just garnering headlines. I mean, it's water cooler talk around the country, and we're 4 weeks in, 3.5, 4 weeks in, right? So I am feeling really optimistic about this. When it comes to DOJ, I think it was earlier today, they're already moving in on the Pentagon and looking at what's been going on there. So I think what you're going to be seeing is, for this kind of 18-month Doge period, that's going to be the public disclosure of the investigation phase. I think that we probably believe they know who the bad actors are and probably have known for some time. But a lot of this Elon stuff and Doge is about disclosing that to the American people. And the reason for doing that is to get the sort of mass public mandate for the justice phase that you want to see. And I do think we're going to see it. I don't think you see these sorts of moves happening if we're not going to see it. I do think that it's going to be the public justice phase has to come after a very public exposure phase. And that seems to be what this year is all about, public exposure.
Yeah. So what I have on the screen here, I see some people with some misconceptions in the chat. Grand jury proceedings are secret. The secrecy is maintained to ensure the safety of witnesses and grand jury members, protect the potential defendant's reputation if the jury decides not to indict, and to avoid tipping off the defendant about the pending investigation against them. They're meant to be secret, the whole thing. And the loophole is the person, before it gets started, going and running and saying, I was asked to open a grand jury investigation, but I decided not to. This attorney was tipping off everybody else that this is what they're going to start. So I saw some people in the chat talking about that. I wanted to correct it.
I've been on a grand jury.
Well done.
You've what?
I've been on grand jury duty.
You're not supposed to tell anybody. It's a secret.
Oh, no. The Brockton Deep State is going to come after me. There's a Brockton Deep State.
Dude, my mom signed up to be a regular on the grand jury. So she's a member of the grand jury that convenes once or twice a year. So on that day, I have to figure out other childcare for my kids while I'm at work.
Does she get a punch card or something?
Dude, I told her, I was like, why do you keep getting summoned for jury duty? And she said, it's the grand jury. I said, okay, well, can you just get out of it like everyone else does when they get summoned for jury duty? And she said, no. It's I signed up for it. It's my civil duty. It's my civil service. And I was like, wait, you want to go do jury duty? And I was like, you're crazy. Like who wants to go sit in a room all day and wait? And she has to be called in, it's not like she gets on the jury every time, but she's in a pool.
Jeez.
But yeah,
that's a bit of a try hard move by
Babbage
Grandma
3.
Ghost.
Babbage. Yeah, totally try hard.
Most people try to get out of grand jury duty.
I have never served on jury duty, knock on wood, but yes. I've been summoned, but
if there is a greater example of who white privilege than somebody trying to get on jury duty.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen it. BLM was right. Burn it all down.
You just ratted out your mom for talking about it.
No. She's just a member of the grand jury pool. She's not she wouldn't tell me about her actual experience in the grand jury.
Okay, everybody needs to contact their senator and tell on Ghost and Ghost Mom. The cover's blown.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. I don't think I had any more topics. Did you guys?
Did I?
Anything else you want to talk
well,
about?
I mean, the Trump and Elon bromance is getting funnier and funnier in the
them appearing
Hannity,
together on Hannity.
Yeah. Elon just talking about how he loves Trump, and I mean, they're
weird
making it so
bromance.
stupid that it's all on purpose.
I was waiting for Elon to put his hand like on Trump's knee or something during the.
Have you seen? Oh man, I gotta try to find the. John, have you seen the video of Trump hugging the Downs person and turns into Elon?
No. I need to though.
I have to try to find it. Hold on,
dude. If you want,
speak amongst yourself.
My favorite part about anytime Elon is like on an interview is trying to like figure out what he's doing with his eyes while he's being asked a question or he's not talking, because he's like looking all over the place, like high out of his mind. He looks, it's probably Asperger's or something, some form of autism that's causing him to do it, like how Burning Bright not rocks back and forth all the time. It's probably similar to that, but it is hilarious. The one disclosure we got, and I didn't realize we already knew this, at least I didn't realize it in all my research into Elon, that we're already using Starshield. And it's not like a top secret thing because Hannity implied it, and Elon's just like, oh yeah, we're already using that for national security reasons. Just didn't say a word. And then it reminds me of what Kash Patel said about him being the world's or the DoD's largest contractor. We just got a Twitter comment on here. How does that work? I don't know. We can get those.
Greetings to Twitter. Yeah, and welcome to Arab Twitter if they're in the chat as well.
Damn it, I can't find this damn meme. If anybody in the chat has seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Which meme?
It's Trump. It's Trump at some old press. I don't know if it's old or new or whatever, but he's at some conference where he like presents an award to special needs people, and there's this Down syndrome kid that comes onto stage and he high fives Trump, and then it just phases into Elon Musk, like it flash forwards to Elon. So the implication is that moment is what created the modern Elon Musk bromance.
I've not
anyway,
seen
you
that.
had to see it.
That sounds good.
John, I had sent you actually earlier that Stephen Miller clip that I thought was kind of interesting about Doge and etc. I can pull it up.
You can pull it up now. I'm trying to find this award. So
I don't know. I don't even know what to search for. My search terms put me on a few watch lists, I think.
Yeah,
right.
Tell me about it.
I think this video is just kind of an interesting deployment in and of itself. Stephen Miller here being pressed on who has the authority in Doge kind of makes me think of devolution and military ops, but also just normie-splaining.
Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time for us. So who is in charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the President wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
Yes.
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago answered a question about transparency at Doge. This is how he spoke about Doge.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
You hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of Doge?
Again, the President runs the government, then the President appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House, and then those staff in turn execute the President's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the president appoints staff, the staff then administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration, you know about this. They were fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that they were rescinded. These aren't normal things. These were terminations that were rescinded.
I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis, a catastrophe for you and for CNN. What the American people see is a government that is finally delivering a promise of accountability under President Trump. You want to have a conversation about transparency? Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea where the $22 billion that the Department of Health and Human Services provided to illegal aliens under Joe Biden is right now? $22 billion with a B. That's enough to provide a free house to every homeless veteran in America. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone. Transparency begins with having an accounting of where every federal dollar is spent. And God bless President Trump for leading this effort.
You're muted, but you can keep it that way. Oh.
That's the gist of it. I just thought, obviously it's sort of normie-splaining what's going on with Doge, but the beginning and, middle of the clip there, he's just... It's incredible to me to watch the mainstream media just fall into these traps over and over and over again, where they're really just giving Trump, Elon, Miller, etc., this platform to say Donald Trump is in charge of this over and over and over again. The American people are the ones who called for this. Donald Trump is very literally in charge of this. And just in a roundabout way, it means that what Elon and Doge are doing is not really... it's a narrative deployment. They're all but saying it's a narrative deployment, and these actuals are happening, but it's not Doge that's doing it. It's the Trump administration.
Yeah, well, a couple things here on this. So, number one, in these lawsuits that have been filed against, Trump, Elon, the Department of Treasury, the Department of State, I think we've had the CIA, we've had the USDS, which is Doge. Every one of these lawsuits from these blue state, blue-haired libs, whatever, trying to stop this stuff, and a lot of them have had TROs come through, but there's been some interesting revelations here because they've had to outline what Elon Musk's actual role is, and this is something, I don't think people actually realize the technicality they're using with Elon Musk. He is an employee of the White House office. This is in a lawsuit. This is the DOJ, Trump's DOJ. This is their filing explaining Elon Musk's role. He holds that position as a non-career special government employee. In the job, he's a senior advisor to the president. It is not common for the president to have senior advisors who are SGEs. For instance, Anita Dunn was an influential senior advisor to President Biden while serving as an SGE. In his role as a senior advisor to the president, Musk has no greater authority than other senior White House advisors. And so, they're essentially saying he's not even an employee of Doge. He's an employee at the White House office. Susie Wiles is the one, I believe, who actually runs Doge. But time and again, what we're seeing here and what Stephen Miller was outlining there and what we're going to see repeated over and over and over is the president's Article 2 power and his authority over how he wants to run his administration. And we've seen this executive order. This is like the second or third one, too, where he's like narrowing in the focus on, hey, I'm the one who has the authority to run my branch the way I want to see it run. I have that power because the Constitution says I have that power. These are all executive agencies in the executive branch. And as the head of the executive branch, I can fire whoever I want. I can do things however I want. Nobody can stop me. And this is the argument he's essentially going to be putting forth and has put forth in all these lawsuits. It's going to get to SCOTUS. I think we have one. Is it this week or next week up at SCOTUS? We also had two new things come through while I was looking here. This is new, ensuring lawful governance and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Deregulatory Initiative. This is interesting because we've already kind of had this, and now we've had the initial executive order for the policy, and now we have the implementation of it. That's the same thing.
I hope this gives Elon more power to do more things right in the face of that woman. Legendary resting bitch face, by the way. That's one for the textbook. The audacity of these people, the nerve of these people to call this stuff out after living through 4 years of Joe Biden, where basically everybody but Joe Biden was making decisions and running the White House is, I mean, I think obvious to everyone, but I would be angry if I wasn't so just humored by it all.
Yeah, and I also think to that point, when you say resting bitch face, etc., we all saw, I think this was last week, the clip of like the 3 Karens going back and forth in that roundtable on CNN about big balls in Doge. And you just can't convince me that we're looking at real operations. We're looking at this incredible gutting of the administrative state. I think all of that's real. But on a narrative level, besides the bombast of the Doge deployments and Elon Musk, we're also seeing on the other side of the ledger a humiliation ritual. And I'm convinced that, when you've got these 3 Karens screeching, when you look at Stephen Miller there opposite another Karen, when you've got Elon being pestered by Karens, when you've got Hegseth, when you've got Rubio, I don't even get angry anymore. And it's because the vast majority of normie Americans are so annoyed by what they're looking at. And they keep just before you even get into the arguments, the demeanor there that you point out, Ghost, is a red pill in and of itself. They are seeing these administrators in the Trump administration be measured, be calm, be able to elucidate all of the moves that they're making, while the person on the other side of the docket, that whatever interview that they're in, is just attacking them. And it's become so much more clearer than it ever has before to people that they're going in with pre-existing talking points. They're just supposed to attack whoever's there from Trump, and Trump administration just doesn't care anymore. Neither do we.
Yeah, I've been saying on my show, Daily Herald, 1 p.m. Eastern every day, the Democrat Party, considering if we fix our elections, they are completely done, because what's happened to them, they don't have like a personality anybody can align with anymore. Like, they don't have an Obama, so they don't have like a leader of the party. They don't have any policies anymore because they pushed the DEI stuff so far that it's a whiplash effect, and Trump is speeding that up. Like, we're going right back to square one. Nobody wants that stuff anymore, and because they pushed it so far, people aren't even willing to vote for them just because they're Democrat. I grew up a Democrat. I always vote Democrat. Like, that's out the window now too. Like, so they're not getting voters on personality. They're not getting voters on tradition, and they're not getting voters on policy. And so they're rudderless. All they have left is being anti-Trump, and the media is just they're there for it, anti-Trump. Yeah. And what's fascinating about that is once all this stuff gets fixed, if we fix our elections, they're done for. You can't run on anti-Trump when Trump isn't even there anymore. Like 4 years from now, the party moves on, the America First movement moves on. You're just going to be anti-Trump forever. You're going to be irrelevant. They already are.
They're just going to be stuck in the same moment in time forever, like frozen. In time. Yeah.
And this is one more thing I said on my show the other day, and I'll let you guys discuss, because this is where I want to go. I think the Democrats only actually exist right now is because our system tells us we need two parties. It's a 2-party system. They only literally exist because the system says they have to. If we fix our elections, I would love to get rid of the 2-party system and just have the America First party, just the America First. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to identify as a party to run. Right? We don't need one of each. Let's just, the best people win. The people with the most support win. The best ideas. Because having the party system, it divides us by ideology without people even caring. Like, I grew up and voted in my first 3 elections, didn't read a thing about anything. It's just, I'm from North Dakota. My family's Republican. I vote Republican. Like, I think we need to do away with that.
Yep. I've been banging that drum for a long time, and I think that you're ahead of that when you come from one ideology and switch over to another. I've said for the last few years now, it has never made me want to identify myself as a Republican. All it's made me see is that the Democrat Party was also corrupt. I've said a million times, and most people in this audience are aware of it. most people voted, or a lot of people voted for Donald Trump by accident. They voted for him because they vote Republican, as you said. I think a lot of that's going away. And yeah, if we have political parties in the future, then we went wrong somewhere. We've been talking about this for a while, and there shouldn't be any parties at all. It just becomes tribal, and it should be more of a decentralized war of ideas, which is what it originally was supposed to be.
It goes hand in hand with election fraud too.
It should be noted that at the founding of the country, when the Constitution was signed, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington were not political allies. Thomas Jefferson was kind of considered like a libertarian, like a libertine. He was very out there. And George Washington was much more buttoned up. But when they both watched the Federalist Party basically evolve, like come out of the muck, out of nowhere, and just be like this fully financed like machine just ready to go, they both like looked at each other and said, this is very scary. How did this thing come out so quickly? This is a serious problem. So you're right. The founding fathers, both of them said, this is a problem. We can't have political parties. This is the greatest threat to our country. When Steve Bannon in 2022 promised every day, because I listened to him every single day, back then, I still love Steve Bannon. But when he said you're watching the death of the Democrat Party, the 2022 midterms will be the death of the Democratic Party, I was a little worried about that, because it's like, well, that leaves us with one party, the Republican Party, and I hate the Republican Party. Like, being a lifelong Republican, I hate the Republican Party. So if the Democrat Party is going to be done, and I agree with you, John, that it is, we also have to turn around and destroy the Republican Party too. Otherwise, we get stuck with a one-party system.
I think it's in the process. Trump has already remade the GOP, or the Republican Party, whatever you want to call it. It's made in his image. It's the America First movement. Yeah. The one thing we need to fix before we can fix any of that, though, is the election system, because that's how these people stay in power. I have to go pee quick. Do you guys want to talk about GART and sell tickets for me?
Yeah. Let's talk about GART, and then there's a video from Howard Lutnick saying that Trump's going to abolish the IRS. We should probably watch that.
I thought you said he was going to go to GART.
That would be
so
way cooler.
GART is oh my God, what is it, in 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Vegas, unfortunately. I will not be there. Baby Bright will not be there. Mrs. Bright will not be there. That's what John's most upset about, is Mrs. Bright not being there. But there's still an okay lineup, I guess. Ghost is going to be there. That should be fun. So tickets on sale. I believe it was a few days ago. Single day tickets are available for Vegas, and virtual tickets are also available. I don't know if it's been announced out there yet. They're trying to put together a couple live streams. As you guys know, whether you buy an in-person ticket or a virtual ticket, there will usually be a couple of exclusive live streams emailed out to you from some members of the team, from some of the speakers that are going to be there, where you kind of just get to shoot the shit in the chat and watch me and G-Money and Ash get into a huge shouting match that was not on the main Rumble channel several months ago. But then we all figured it out. We patched it up.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get to Vegas. Considering how much fun the GARTs have all been at this will be like my 7th GART.
Wow.
Is it the 7th or 8th GART?
This is the 7th.
Okay, so this will be my 6th GART then. And man, as fun as they have been at all the other locations, I can't imagine how fun it's going to be in Vegas. So if you are anywhere within driving distance, and I think out west,
if you speakers stress Mrs. Bright out more than Zach already has, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, she might. Yeah, I mean, in Vegas, who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
But out west, though, I'm pretty sure if you're like within 12 hours driving distance, that's considered like a pretty short drive out west, based on the people I know out there. So if you're within like 12 hours driving, come. Right.
I would like to meet the people you know out west that consider 12 hours a short drive.
Well, I'm just saying
that Arab Twitter.
They're on Arab. You gotta go to Arab Twitter to find them. People are like, "Oh yeah, I'm heading up the road 5 hours real quick, and then I'm turning around and driving back today." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's nothing."
Riyadh has been in Nevada the whole time.
It's called a gambling addiction, I think. But yeah, guys, let me know in the chat how these two did. If they convinced you to buy a in-person or virtual ticket, I would love to know. We are doing a live stream Friday, I think. pretty sure.
Sweet. Virtual stream should be fun too. The golf was awesome when we did that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what our plan is for that yet. We'll see. There's things are in the air right now still.
There's got to be a place in the desert we can go like shoot things, like blow things up.
Peacefully at a range of some sort.
Peacefully. I'm talking about like a shooting range. I'm not talking about. Or just somebody's property. I don't know. It's a desert.
No.
I'm saying somebody's private property they've converted. I have a friend who used to sell firearms in Arizona, and they had a big range they set up.
Put the shovel down, Gordon. Put the shovel down.
It was all legal, licensed. It's America.
Okay, let's move on. Let's play that clip about the IRS, and then we'll get to the boosts and the rants. Do you have it pulled up?
The Lutnick.
Yeah, the Lutnick one. It's this one.
Your account is suspended?
No, this is just the account that's linked to this browser I use for StreamYard. So different account. Don't kick me off, Elon.
Can't hear anything. Hey, can't hear anything.
Wait, you can't hear anything?
No. You gotta reshare your tab and share your audio. It's okay, man. I remember my first stream. It's all good.
It says that I'm sharing my audio. That's weird.
I'll share it.
All right, you share it.
Since you screwed this up, and now I can officially press buttons.
So he's going to cut $1 trillion, and then we're going to get rid of all these tax scams that hammer against America, and we're going to raise $1 trillion of revenue. And our objective under Donald Trump is to balance this budget. And I'm telling you, you watch it, we're going to do it.
If you get savings from these Doge cuts, are you going to give any of this back to the American people? We keep hearing about these Doge dividends.
Well, think about it. Donald Trump announces the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple. His goal is to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay. This is someone who is focused on America. Let's drive down our waste, fraud, and abuse. I'll give you an example. Cruise ships. You ever see a cruise ship with an American flag on the back? They have flags of like Liberia or Panama. None of them pay taxes. Every super tanker, none pays taxes. Alcohol, all foreign alcohol, no taxes. This is going to end under Donald Trump, and those taxes are going to be paid, and Americans' tax rates are going to come down. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. Balance our budget and cut our taxes. Imagine a Democratic senator going against that. What planet are these people on?
Wow.
I'm going to have to disagree with Lutnick on one minor point, a quibble. I've been on a few cruises in my life. I met my wife on a cruise.
Really?
And the worst cruise I was ever on was in Hawaii. And there's a technicality where because it's all U.S. waters, the crew has to be American. And the reason that we hated the cruise is because it was the worst crew that we've ever had on a cruise. So I just want cruises to stay as underpaid foreign visa workers because they try way harder for your tips and Americans do not. So that's the only thing. Everything else I'm 100% on board with.
The
Keep
H-1B
cruises underpaid foreign labor.
Argument is revived.
Yep. Just, hey, if you know, you know.
H-1B be a thing. The abolishing the IRS, though, that's a fascinating prospect. One that I never thought I would actually even see as a serious part of conversations. I believe he can do it. He puts his mind to it. I believe he's going to do it. So
yeah. I believe
that means I
first
think we
move
should
is
just
gonna
all
be-
stop paying taxes, right? Because they're going to get rid of it anyway.
No, Doge is going
Just
to
kidding.
seize all of G Money's back tax money and give it to the rest of the American people.
That is not financial advice. I would
People
never
have been
tell
saying a $5,000 is there like talk about $5,000 check going out? People have been saying that on on Arab Twitter all day.
Arab Twitter. There's rumors. Elon Musk brought it up, floated it, I believe, that part of what they want to do is give everybody a $5,000 check. I don't know why that number, but since then I think Trump has even confirmed they're considering some things to do with this Doge savings. They're thinking 20% back to the American people in the form of like a check like that, 20% to pay down the debt, And then with the rest of it, I don't know. Maybe the sovereign wealth fund, maybe just not having to, maybe lowering taxes with that money. I don't know. We'll see. Budget stuff's coming up though. March 14th is the deadline. I think this week we're supposed to see some numbers. I don't get it.
Just has an affinity for cruises because of his people.
Oh, our people.
Some of them stayed there and they became great bartenders. Cam.
Okay, let's go to the boost before you get us in trouble.
Just saying, if you know, you know. Don't go on Hawaii cruises.
I don't go on any cruises. Just being stuck on a big boat. I've heard too many horror stories in the middle of the ocean. I
like my bartenders foreign. I like my servants foreign. I like my wives foreign. Everything else, I buy American. Anyway,
flip that.
Liberty 21, $10. Help, love you guys, but wondering what you're wanting us MAGA normies to do exactly. I'm not in the deep diving is not something I'm good at, but I do want to know the actual news. That's why I'm here. What am I to be doing, in your opinion? This was from last week.
I would say, be engaged, share the stuff. Like the big thing I think is for people who don't want to, put their face out there on streams and engage with it to the level we do. Just share it with your friends and family. Find pieces of information that you find that you'll like and share with those in your circle. That's a great thing to do. And you can also just engaging with our content that helps other people to see it. Because when stuff gets more engagement, it rises in algorithms. That's why we always ask for the thumbs up on these videos, because it rises in the algorithm and helps other people find the work. So I don't know.
You alternatively, you could scream at InfoWar people if they question anything and just hammer them over the head by saying, trust the plan, bro. You're not allowed to question anything. That's also effective.
I would also encourage people just to get more comfortable talking to people in their normal life, like in the real world, about politics. My sister had like a birthday party for her boyfriend / Super Bowl party on the Super Bowl day. And I went over there with my kids before the game started. And, I didn't know anyone there because she's younger than me, but I was just talking to all these people who I'd never met before. And we were just having casual conversations about Trump and how awesome he was and how awesome it was what was happening. And everyone was in total agreement. These are people who were like 6 or 7 years younger than me. And everyone was just in total agreement about it. And I have no idea what their politics are. I don't really care, but just casually talking about stuff. And then I went later and was talking to older people, like my parents' age, casually talking about it. I wasn't beating them over the head with theories or beating them over the head. I was just like, oh, did you see what was in the news today? Yeah. And they think it's awesome. So casually having those conversations and just letting them speak, I think you'll learn a lot. And hopefully you're not surrounded by crazy people.
Yeah. One thing I want to address real quick too, before we go through the rest of these is when we talk about the people yelling at us for the trust the plan thing, I'm not talking about Abs or Stormy.
No.
if I had an issue with Abs and Stormy, they just wouldn't be on Badlands. Like if there's an issue there, there's not. There's a specific person. We're not going to say who it is because you guys know who it is, but this one person is being overly retarded about the whole thing and over and over and over. And it's just it's become a theme, and it's not just this person, but it's the person that we know, and other people are doing it too. But those two I have no issue with. Those two are responsible with their Q stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the decodes are good, right? We all have disagreements with that. That's not what it's about. Rainbow said, sorry, you have something else?
No, so let's keep going.
Rainbow, $25. John, the name is pronounced Rainbow. As I mispronounce it.
Sorry.
Think reindeer. Anywho, BB, my son is literally on his way to Japan with his cousin. Cousin has a wife and child there. They're going to go on a few excursions throughout Southeast Asia. Second trip there. Nice.
Tell him to take some videos and send them home to
take a video walking around and send it to me so I can watch it at 3 a.m. with Baby Bright. I said last week that I watch 4K videos of people walking around in Japan. Not of people, but of the walks.
So
that's how
weird.
the phraseology is bad. It's cool looking. Facts, not wishes, sent $21 over. Regarding comment about stabilized normie reaction being just follow the leader, I hope you'll be exploring the implications of this. A lot more implication is MAGA might not outlast Trump. That's a devastating critique. My response to that would be...
Is that a trust the plan thing? Is that
I think they're saying We are criticizing a follow the leader mentality.
Yes.
I hope you'll be exploring the implications of this. The implication is MAGA might not outlast Trump. That's a devastating critique.
We'll save this for a GART panel. This is a great topic to have as a GART panel.
Yeah. That's why we say the stuff we do, actually.
Yeah.
I think, to address that.
And
100%.
what's the GART panel?
Like the implications of just trusting the plan and everything being part of the plan. And we're watching a movie, full control, that stuff. Like that's something that does need to be explored. Because I agree. I think there are potential pacification damages that could long term be in play if we get too many people in that mindset.
You know what's interesting on that is when you look at people like General Flynn and Kash Patel, I think sometimes they can be being honest when they say that they don't want to talk about it besides the operation. Like they're saying this isn't the point.
Yeah. We don't need to get too deep into that.
Facts Not Wishes, $22. Quast, quote, BB, you've got a great gift. Your mind, your ability to think and write and connect dots. It's really powerful. It's very humbling, and we're all lucky to have you. That you have decided to contribute your life to this cause. Thoughts, John?
This is great. Yeah. Cool. It was a good interview. I'm sure I didn't get to finish the whole thing, but
I didn't,
he's a good dude. I like Quast a lot. He's been a mentor both publicly and privately. He's a great guy.
I've said it before on the show earlier that that will reinvigorate like the fire in you is just listening to him speak about geopolitics in general. That like gets me so fired up because he has such a great wisdom when it comes to it.
Yeah.
We should put him at a GART, like in a booth, Quast corner, and like you pay and you go in there.
You put a quarter in.
You'll come out being like, I'm the best. Lionheart, $50. Hey guys, just when you thought the Ukraine clown show couldn't get any more ridiculous, Zelensky threw a tantrum over the non-invite to the Russia-USA peace talks. Like Trump said, Zelensky's just a mediocre comedian. God bless. Some funny stuff there. Thank you. Micro Toolmaker, $117. So another day that Rumble's messing with my ability to support shows. I'm glad you have the boost option. I know I should always use it, and if Rumble keeps it up, it'll be inevitable. Where we go on, we go all. Well,
thanks
thank you very
NPM.
much, Micro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, some people have been saying that. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like sometimes there's some issues with Rumble rants. That's what we say. Go on Badlands.com. John had the team add a boost button, I believe, right? Is on the main page now.
It's on the main page.
So there you go. That's all.
Is that all the boosts? That's all of them?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's do some Rumble ranting. Poster for Hope. Hillary sent tungsten, I think you mean tungsten, to China 2009 and got caught. Yeah, we talked about this on Monday's Basis Conspiracies. Pretty crazy. No, it's not really mainstream news either that happened. They essentially sent fake gold. Then the question becomes, did Hillary swap out the gold or was it already swapped out before that? Interesting things could be drawn from that whole situation. Poster for Hope again. Put article in comments about gold to China 2009. Thank you, Poso. Melindy, great graphic map of modern Ukraine. That's the map that I had up earlier. So thank you for sending that through, Melindy. River Rat 4. Should probably put my glasses on. The byproduct of a nuclear power plant using ocean water is pure water, as in steam. Two birds with one stone. The bastards don't want us to know that. By the way, it's River Rat.
Okay.
River Rat
there should be
with
two
one R.
R's.
River Rat. Got it. Okay, yeah.
See, I read it right.
Yeah.
Even though it was wrong. 1027 JS, $20. Good discussion. Thanks. Thank you, Joe. As always, appreciate you. River Rat again, minus an R, says, I live by Wheeler Dam. For the last 10 years or so, they only running 2 turbines. They let the water just flow through instead of gen electricity. It is free elect, but use the nuclear plant instead.
Well, you live up to your name. If you live by the Wheeler Dam, you are in fact a river rat. So
there you go. Good point. And another one from River Rat here. Doge Big Balls needs to look at what's going on at TVA. The VA?
Yeah, I don't know. What is that?
Tennessee Valley Authority?
Huh.
Or the Time Variance Authority from the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
That's probably it.
Deadpool versus Wolverine. Maybe that's
got to be it. Thank you for the comment, though. Banish the shadow. I owe an apology to John and BB. I ignorantly accused you guys of ill intent on the night Kyle decided he needed to leave for his own reasons. It was wrong of me. Thanks for all your work. That might be the first time I've seen somebody apologize, and I
was
truly,
waiting for the rug
truly
the whole time.
Appreciate that. Thank you for that rant, Banish.
Yeah.
We get a lot of unjust hate, not just for that reason, but for lots of other reasons, and we never get to see the apologies. So that was really cool of you.
Hat tip.
Wedged Gravy. You had Q on the show. Do tell, Flynn. What?
You phrased it. You said we have Q on the show. He meant we talk about.
Q. And we have a Q show on the network.
Yeah.
On the platform,
We have Q on the network, so that's why they were.
Q is in the room with us right now.
No. Yeah, if we weren't supportive of the Q stuff, they wouldn't be on Badlands, but it's like everywhere. So, Keto Higgins, do you guys think Elon told Ashley St. Clair to trust the Plan B?
Good one.
It's amazing. Keto Higgins, man. CJ Hurley, 1961. This is because of Basel III ETFs that hold precious metals is fractional like the dollar, but not enough gold or silver exists for people to take delivery. All large Joe Lang and others confirmed. LA.
Yeah, Joe's got a lot of good writing on this. Again, I'm not anti gold and silver. I just I think we need whatever system we move into, we need a transparent ledger. Otherwise, you're just trusting custodians. That's what banks are. They're custodians.
I agree. VP Nichols, another great show, gents. Excellent discussions. Thank you. Thank you, VP Nichols. Patrick J17F, that comment, the three of you gentlemen are the most brilliant minds in the information war. She's a retard. I don't remember what that's in reference to, but thank you for the rant and the kind words. Keto Higgins, hey Ghost, does Arab Twitter have community notes or community stonings?
Man,
do not put a rainbow in your profile.
Good one. On a roll. Dude, Liberty Den, he's been killing it with his rants. So funny.
Love
anyway,
it.
Stacey Anderson 9, could the grand jury investigations you are referencing possibly be related to the sealed Fed indictments building since 2017? Could be. I mean, these are specific to the Biden admin, so I don't know if they're connected. I don't know.
That's a great point. Has anybody checked in on that? Because there used to be somebody who would update there was like a map
of sealed indictments
with all like every state and the sealed indictments. There was a spreadsheet and they got up to like 100,000 sealed indictments, which seemed insane. But yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen a lot of talk about that.
The last time I saw it was after Biden was like sworn in, and then people were like, "Oh, the sealed indictments were actually for all y'all. We're coming for you." Like people were posting that kind of crap on, like trolls. So that was the last time I saw anybody really talk about it.
Wow. IB Fish Ghost, I've only seen you sitting. Based on the width of your shoulders, you appear much taller than BB and similar in stature to John.
Oh, well, respect. John is actually very tall, so I will say that.
Very tall and
calves,
muscular, and all sorts of good things. No, how tall are you both actually, though? Like 5'10"?
I'm 5'8".
5'8".
Oh, wow.
He said it second, which means you can't trust him.
Yep, there you go.
He was going to just say whatever I said.
I'm actually 5'9".
We are going to measure.
The one who betrayed me is I was convinced that Chris Paul was going to be shorter than me for some reason, just based on like demeanor, and probably because the only off-stream picture I had ever seen of Chris before meeting him, he was standing with Seth Keshel. So he looked very diminutive. And then he was slightly taller than me in person.
Seth is very tall.
I've never forgiven him for it, actually.
Yeah. You're all shorties. Keto Higgins, Republicans should embrace a GOP in Trump's image. They all get to upgrade their wives. PJW, John, don't get excited.
Cruise, guys, I'm telling you.
But there is a big UFC fight in Vegas on March 8th. Donald J. Trump is going to be in town, imagine. Is he really?
I forgot about what UFC is it.
Okay, well, now I need...
Dude, if Trump is going to be there,
yes,
we need to go to the fight.
Well, no, we need to get him to come to GART.
Yeah.
Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Brazil versus Russia. You get Justin Gaethje in the co-main event. Should be a good one.
Dude, Scavino, if you're listening right now, please let us be in the entourage.
No, we want him at GART. I don't care about going to the fight. I want him to come to GART.
Good point.
You mean, He's
Do
not
the
going to get
power
all of
hour
us
at the fights.
we are not going to leave Gart and our Badlanders to go to the fight. We want him to come to us.
Bring the entourage to Gart.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. Okay, let's keep going here. D. Barto, I would love to take you all shooting, but I'm 2 hours north of Las Vegas. Zion shooting experience, and yes, we could blow things up.
See, I knew I could count on somebody. Somebody in the desert is down to blow some stuff up.
I don't know if I'd want to just go meet somebody I've never met before, 2 hours north of Vegas, just to shoot things and blow stuff up. I just don't have that kind of faith in humanity yet.
You'll never
Can
make
you
it.
call yourself an American? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of places to be buried in the desert, man. A lot of places. Melindy, suggestion for a Saturday show, a supporter call-in show where we can roast y'all hosts for 5 minutes.
5 minutes each? Or a 5-minute show?
See, the thing about that is, like, it's a good idea. Like, I could get behind that idea, but not everybody's good at roasting. And I don't want to sit for 5 minutes listening to somebody who's not good at roasting try to roast somebody, because that's like...
We'd have to form committees, and the committees would have to elect people among themselves who were worthy of being roasters. And then there have to be layers of bureaucracy, and then Doge would have to come in and clean it all up.
We need a task force.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If we're going to get roasted, we would give it back, and then you guys get all offended and leave and never follow us again.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a healthy thing. Counterinsurgent, the special needs meme for BB. Yes. Okay, we can close out the show with this.
Is this the one? Is it a video? It's got to be a video. You pulling it up?
Hold on.
I was looking for it. I couldn't find it.
I think so. Is it this one?
Yes.
Okay, so we have one more rant here, and then we'll get to that. GP Shea, are you guys staying at Ahern? We cannot tell you where we're staying at, so get a ticket and you'll find out.
That's classified.
Yes, and by the way, if you do not have a ticket and you find out where we're at and come, you will be escorted off the premises by security. No, you'll be sent to the guy 2 hours north with the gun range. No, but we're not going to allow people just walk in and hang out without having a ticket, because it's not fair to the people who purchase their tickets. So if that is your plan right now to do that, I'm telling you, our security will be checking for tickets at the door, and you will be thrown out or not allowed entry if you don't have a ticket. So,
and that will be embarrassing. And even though we shouldn't have to say it, it is becoming an increasing trend of people trying to do that. So, yeah.
It's not fair to the people who purchase tickets for other people's off the street to just come hang out with everybody else and get the same experience for free. So we got to do something about it. Anyway, that's all the rants, guys. So Ghost, Burning Bright, thank you for joining. And we're going to close out with this video here. So this better live up to expectations.
It's only 16 seconds long.
Yeah. So we'll see you all tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, Daily Herald. But see you next week.
Later.